Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wealth Preservation Podcast. I am here with my co-host, Josh Saunders. Josh, how are you, and where are you recording from today?
Mark, how's it going, man? Well, I am currently in Hilton Head, South Carolina. We don't like to timestamp most of these, but it's right before Christmas 2020. The year of infamy as 2020 will be known, the year of COVID.
Yes.
So, which is really appropriate because we're talking aviation and the aviation industry today, and we have awesome guest of Raven Careers, James Onieal. How you doing, James?
Excellent. I am not any place exciting. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, where it is gray outside.
Is it always gray in Columbus, Ohio? Is it just like...
It's got a bluish tinge of gray, so we call that clear skies.
It's the Seattle of the North. Seattle of the Midwest.
That is overly kind. Thank you.
So, hey, just real quick. Me and my wife have been kind of debating this. Is Ohio the Northeast or the Midwest?
I am from the Northeast, so I call it the Midwest.
Okay. I call it the Midwest.
Yeah. And then when you get into the Northeast and is it Northeast or is it New England? So you get start fights with that stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I call it the Midwest.
Okay.
So, it's farm kids out here.
Ohio has more of a Midwestern feel than the East Coast people, for sure.
Well, the cool thing I like about Columbus is it's a nice tier 2 city. So you got there's a boatload of stuff to do around here. There's a lot of companies based here, like Scott's Miracle Grow. You got Nationwide Insurance, AEP, Victoria's Secret's based here.
Big fans.
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah. Well, so the cool thing is everything that you guys get in the United States, like fashion wise and food wise, this is the test market for it. So we get it all like 6, 9, 12 months before you do. So it's a pretty, now I'm advocating for Columbus. Nobody move here. It's horrible. So you get all the cool things that you get every place else without like all the people. So it's kind of pretty cool, actually.
So do you get the test stuff that doesn't do well? Like, does Victoria's Secret have like sexy overalls and coveralls around?
Believe it or not, I don't shop there too often, but yeah, I'm sure they do. I mean,
James, are you wearing a test thong right now?
Yeah. This is straight off one of the models.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you get all the test market stuff, and so I don't know, it's kind of cool, but it's. So I'm from Jersey and my wife's from Brooklyn.
So you're Northeastern. Yeah.
So we both went to Riddle. We graduate college, and my wife's 22 and she graduates. She goes and gets a dispatch certificate so she can do performance planning for airplanes. We'll get into those acronyms later, so Mark has no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, we'll get ready on that.
So now and start doodling.
So she's 22 years old. She gets a dispatch certificate, but you can't legally dispatch airplanes till you're 23 years old. So there's this gap of a year where she can't do anything. So I'm flying an awful turboprop for a company called Colgan Air out of Buffalo, New York. So my wife,
that name will come up again too, people. Remember that name. That will come up again.
Yeah. So my wife decides that she's going to move up to Buffalo, New York. And she'll just get a job doing whatever for a year until she's 23. So we get a U-Haul, it gets all loaded up, and she starts the drive from Florida up to the Northeast, up to Buffalo. And about halfway through the drive, she gets a phone call. Oh, she's doing this drive with my dad, by the way, because I was flying. So my dad actually used my non-refuel just to go help her load her stuff up and move it up. And she gets a phone call that says, hey, we're going to offer you a job at a company called NetJets. And you're going to order crew food for pilots, right? Completely glamorous job. I'm sorry. Did you say you wanted grape jelly or did you want raspberry jelly? So now she's got $120,000 worth of student loan debt to basically be the drive-through person at McDonald's for a private jet company. For
super spoiled pilots, by the way, who are prima donnas. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a former NetJets pilot, so 100% prima donnas. So 4 crew meals a day. So she takes a job. She accepts the job. Her and my dad make a left turn, head out to Ohio. Here's the deal. She was making $4,000 more per year ordering crew food for pilots than I was flying airplanes.
Yeah. Yep.
She had healthcare and a 401k, free healthcare, like a Cadillac healthcare plan with no premiums. And they gave 50 cents on the dollar up to 15% into your 401k. And she's going, I'm sorry, you said you wanted romaine lettuce, or was that shredded lettuce?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm flying clapped out junk equipment through the Northeast in weather we should not be flying in
Ever.
right?
Yeah.
For like $22,000 a year.
Yes.
Wishing I could make that much money. So that's how we ended up in Columbus, Ohio. On a Friday, she goes, "Hey, why don't you come on out?" I had never been to Ohio before. She had never been to Ohio before. I had to pull out a map to figure out where it was. And we went out on a Friday, and by Sunday we had an apartment picked out, and I left and she loaded everything in. And a week later I came back and I had an apartment that was fully cleaned and stocked.
Well, you get mad props just for doing that, by the way. Like you have your wife unload all the whole truck and everything, man.
Oh yeah. So every major snowstorm that Ohio has had since 2005 when we moved out here, I've conveniently been out on a trip. So now I'm 6'5", I'm about 220 pounds. My wife's 5'2". And we had because it's Ohio, so for like $50,000 a year, you can get like a 50-car garage. So we have this like 12-car driveway, and she's literally like shoveling this 12-car driveway. To which the neighbors are like, "Where's your husband at?" And so he's flying. Like, yeah, great. So
he's always flying when the storms come in.
Yeah. Glamorous to be married to a pilot. You get to do things like mow your own lawn. And when we had the real estate agent, we were going around looking at houses, and she was like, "Oh, this house looks real nice." I go, "Hey, dear, don't pick anything out. Don't pick any house out that you think is more lawn than you're willing to cut." And the real estate agent looked at me like, "What?" I go, "Dude, she's gonna be the one here. I'm gone 20 days a month. Like." Yeah, I'm not mowing the lawn. I mean,
I'm a pilot, man.
That's when you slip in like, "Hey, my other family on the West Coast, they've got
too." So, but yeah. So it was and we've been out in Ohio since then. And my wife moved up from ordering crew food to eventually becoming the manager of procurement, and then ran the hotel program for NetJets. So she did all the negotiation for all the hotel relationships throughout North America and Europe.
So after she mowed the lawn and shoveled the driveway.
After she mowed the lawn, yeah, of course. Absolutely. Yeah, you got to get the important stuff out of the way first.
Yeah. So is she still working there or no?
No, she got up to that point, and then I'm trying to think on what I'm allowed to say. We got into there was a little friendly competition when I was walking out of the house one day, and I was like, you seem pretty comfortable. There's no way you'd apply for another job. And then about 3 weeks later, she had 2 more job offers that paid substantially more than she was currently making. And it was a little like, so I think I still won that one.
You're like, oh no, you're making more money.
Yeah. But she left NetJets. She ended up, like I said, she started out ordering crew food. Then she became a dispatcher. Then she took over operations analysis. Then she became manager of procurement, and then she took over the hotel program. And then after she ran that for about, I think 3 or 5 years, she decided to leave. And she went to American Express. And she is what's called a client global. She's way more important than I am. So she is.
Is she there?
Yeah. If you guys want to end the podcast and get her on, she's way better than I am.
Yeah.
So she became the client global manager for one of the consulting firms. So she works for American Express, and basically she doesn't run their travel program because they have their own internal people that do that. But she runs it from it's called a TMC, a travel management company. Mm-hmm. So if you think about like for people individually, right, they use like Expedia or Orbitz or Google Flights, like that's basically a travel management company. Well, obviously when you go to large, Fortune 50 companies, they're not using Expedia. So they have like CWT, or you have American Express. And there's a couple other in there that I'm not familiar with because it's not my business. But they administer the travel program. And so she works directly with someone at that consulting firm, and they've got over 200,000 travelers. And so she runs, I think she just runs maybe she just runs the United States, North America. This is a really fun coronavirus story, by the way, because we knew the coronavirus was happening well in advance of it happening because
thanks for the heads up.
Yeah,
you're now our most hated guest.
She's sitting there. So so one of the reasons why she decided to leave was because this is now a podcast about my wife, by the way.
Yeah, I was actually going to go reintroduce the whole podcast. Welcome to the podcast where James talks about his wife the entire time. Yeah.
And by the way, way more interesting than I am. So she goes to Paris in the beginning of the year. She just decided to go. She hadn't traveled for a while, so she leaves NetJets, and now she's in. So one of the big reasons to leave NetJets is it's now a full work from home position. So she completely works from home. We had around that time we had downsized. Because it was Ohio, so we had like a 2,000 square foot house. We decided, you know what, we don't really want to do that, so we downsized to an 800 square foot piece of property. So we went from 2,000 square feet to 800 square feet, and we went from being gone all the time to now we both I only fly 9 days a month, so I'm home the rest of the time. So now we're both work from home in an 800 square foot condo. Right, so it's cozy. Yeah, cozy. Yeah, that's it's kind of like your RV, except it doesn't move. Desks, right? The scenery is just always gray. So she decided in January this year she was going to go on vacation, and rightfully so, decided to go without me. So she went with a very close friend of hers. They go over to Paris. Her friend is a doctor, so they're in Paris, and they're having some conversations over lunch, and she's like, her friend's getting these emails because she's a doctor, and she's like, yeah, there's this new coronavirus thing. I wonder if that's going to be kind of like a big deal. And so I remember she came back from the trip, and she's like, yeah, there's this thing called coronavirus. And I'm like the beer? And she's like, no, it's a coronavirus thing. And I'm like, whatever. I got sales calls to do, right? I don't have time to worry about this stupid coronavirus thing. It is not going to have any impact. You are wasting my time, dear. Yeah, right. I'm an executive. Yeah, I am a pilot. I have important things to do here. So
the world's not going to stop flying. I mean,
no, yeah. Come on, no. So I'm sitting at home, and because we only have 800 square feet, we work in the same space. It's a combined living room, dining room, TV room, laundry room, like the whole thing is in this like 50 square feet. So I'm sitting on the couch, and whenever she does meetings, she always has headsets on so that I don't, hear anything that's going on. But I overhear her go, okay, yeah, let's pull everyone back from Europe. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, we're being cautious. There's that coronavirus thing. And so we're going to bring everybody home. We're not really sure if we're being like overly cautious or not, but we don't want anybody to get hurt. Okay. Like 2 weeks later, I'm sitting there and yeah, okay, shut down all US travel. And I went, what did you just say?
What?
And she was like, I don't have time. I'm busy. So I literally said to her, I'm like, you're going to shut down the US economy. And it was like, not my problem. We got to figure this out. And so that was probably about 3 weeks ahead of the airlines shutting down. And I just remember, so I got laid off during the 2008 economic crisis, and this has felt extraordinarily similar.
Yeah.
Now I want to make sure that I'm being, clear. A lot of people have died, right? This is a very serious thing, right? So I don't want to make light of the fact that like being ruined financially and losing your life are not on the same plane. And the process leading up to it and the things shutting down and slowing down and parking jets around the country and not knowing and watching people get pulled into offices and get laid off and all the things that the non-medical things that happened during coronavirus, I will be honest, feel exactly like it did in 2008. And I just remember, we had so much business in January and February that 50% of the people that reached out to us, we just deleted them out of our system and never called them. We didn't have the staff to even return your phone call. Right? I didn't have anybody to call you up and go, hey, Josh, I know you'd like to spend a boatload of money with us right now. And why don't you just give me your credit card number and I'll type it in right here and maybe we'll call you back. And like, we weren't even doing that. We were just like, delete them out of the system. So I'm fortunate in that my wife runs all the analytics for us because she has an analytics background.
Uh-huh.
And so in February, she's like, "You've got a problem." And I'm like, "No, I don't."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, you do. Like, the numbers are slowing down." And I'm like, "That's just a typical, that's March, right? Like, that's every March that happens. That's no big deal. You don't know what you're talking about." And then our numbers look like the TSA passenger charts.
Yeah.
I mean, it just friggin' cratered. And then I had time to follow up with all those people that didn't want to talk to me anymore. But I mean,
where's the undelete button?
Yeah. It literally, and it wasn't even like arrogance of like delete these people. Like we literally just didn't have the time. And so, you know, I had done all this work, so like it would take me on average 50 minutes to close somebody on a sale. I had gotten that down to 12 minutes. Right. So I had all these efficiencies in place, right, where I could, because I knew, hey, look, if we're going to have all these people reaching out, I've got to figure out how to make good use of my time, because then we won't be able to help as many people. I'll be spending too much time on the phone going, how's your day going? Not enough time giving you what you need to make a yes or no decision. And then look, if you say no, we don't bother you. Have a good day. You're not going to get an email from me. I'm not going to call you on a Saturday and go, hey, I'll just delete you out of the system and we just move on. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had done all these things to make this like really efficient. I mean, I had it so like my calls are just blocked, boom, 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 all day long. And then literally my mother wouldn't return my phone call. I mean, it was like if I had set myself on fire and stood in front of your house, you'd have been like, could you move out of the way a little bit? That's getting a little bright. And then it went to like, now we're on the phone and I couldn't close anybody. I couldn't get anybody to, everybody's panicking. And we didn't, you got to remember, nobody knew that this was still when there were 1,000 deaths, 1,500 deaths, right? You know, everybody's going, this is going to be like a 1 month thing. And then it just progressively got worse and worse. And I remember when Delta announced they were parking 300 jets, we did that at NetJets when I was a NetJets pilot between 2008 and 2010. And that's actually why I started this business. When they laid me off, I couldn't find a job. So I figured I'd start a business teaching other people how to find one. So
those who can't do, teach.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And those who can't teach, consult. So, you know, it's in 2009 when we kind of started feeling the effects of the economic crisis, we were parking jets all around the country. I mean, we would just, you know, you'd land, you'd put covers on them, and then you'd get on an airline and go home, and you wouldn't. I mean, I sat at home for 3-4 months, never touched an airplane. And then when Delta announced, hey, we're parking the jets, I got dizzy. And like I said, I'm 220 pounds, I'm 6'5", so my wife's 5'2". And I was like, I need to sit down because if I pass out, like you're not going to be able to do much with me because it just brought back remembering nobody would touch a corporate jet, right? I don't know if you remember, but all the auto executives went to Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
They got destroyed. I remember sitting in an FBO next to the Ford pilots while that stuff was going on. Like, dude, do you want a hug? I mean,
everybody. So here's my card. You're going to need my services.
I mean, everybody hated us because NetJets is a fractional aircraft owner. So which is like timeshares for jets, for anybody that doesn't know who they are. So the NetJets sales department would go, if you owned your own personal flight department, they would go in and convince you to shut your flight department down and use our airplanes. So you had all these guys that were losing jobs because NetJets was going in and saying, hey, just get rid of your airplanes. Well, now guess what? We're the ones out of work. Nobody exactly wants to talk to you at that point, right? I wasn't on the sales team. Nobody consulted me on the strategy, but it doesn't matter. You're the guy that took my job. So it was, you know, kind of all those memories of just the economy collapsing, things grinding to a halt, not knowing, you know, you're like, hey, I'm going to lose my job, but how long am I going to lose it for, right? Going out to Home Depot. I got hired at NetJets at 24 years old. I was the youngest pilot on their seniority list. I got hired on a Monday making $33,000 a year. On Wednesday of that first week, they passed a new contract. By that Friday, I was making 90. So I'm 24 years old. I just went from 33 to 90, right? I've got a killer 401k. I've got 4 crew meals a day, right? So I've got this great job. And now all of a sudden they're getting ready to lay us off, and I'm dipping my toe in the water, and Home Depot won't hire me to sort bolts in the hardware department. Right. So you start to realize real quick, like, oh, nobody cares that you're a pilot. I go into the Verizon store. Hey, man, I'll sell cell phones for you. Nope. Because there's 50 people that have 10 years of experience selling cell phones that can't get a job. Mm-hmm. So when this hit this year, right, that's kind of, there were a lot of people like, oh, I'll be able to land on my feet. You're like, you don't know what you're dealing with, right? Yeah. Like when our numbers cratered, not only did they crater, but I got like all the guys on my staff are pilots.
Right.
So now not only am I not giving them any business, but they don't know if their company's about to let them go.
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of staring at me going, what do we do? And you're like, I'm going to cry on the couch. I don't know what you're going to do. Like, I don't know. I'll get back to you in a week.
You're like, this is full of booze, so that's what I'm going to start doing. So I don't know.
And everything that we were delivering, like every service that we had, now had no use. Right. So we're selling resumes and application reviews and interview prep for airlines because that's who's hiring. Well, guess what? That's not happening anymore. Yep. So all of the marketing spend, all of the trust and rapport, all of the everything is now worthless.
Yeah.
Right. So we now have these services that we can provide, networking and salary negotiation, interview prep. But I was the only one in the business when we were doing that. Right. So that was 10 years ago. So now we've got all this staff sitting around that are not trained on how to do any of that.
Yeah.
And we're not bringing in any revenue. So what did we do? We spent money on retraining everybody.
Yeah.
And we made a bet that because we didn't know, right? We're going to retrain people on these new skills and services because we're going to make a bet that people are going to want that, but we don't have a marketing strategy behind it. We don't have anything on the website about it. We are not known for it. No other company that we compete with offers this. Fuck it. Let's do it. What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
I'm going to go spend thousands of dollars on retraining everybody because I think this might work, but I don't really know how I'm going to sell it or what I'm going to sell or really if there's even a client there for this.
And I'm telling you, that's why people should listen to this podcast because we talk about entrepreneurs and they do crazy stuff, man. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. Crazy stuff. We look, like you said, we look where the puck's, hit the puck where we think it's going, not where it's been.
We took a 1,000,000% bet and said, this is either going to work really well or we're going to go out of business. And we created a new category. Now our competitors are trying to keep up with what we're providing.
I like it.
This is like the longest trailer for our episode 2.
Yeah.
I have like so many questions in my head where I'm like, oh, but that would be so good in episode 2. Like, no.
And the cool thing is, right? So I get all the credit, right? Because I'm the face of the company. I'm the one that people see on the videos. I'm the one that people see on the podcast.
Well, you wear Victoria's Secret clothes, so it makes sense that you're the face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But what they don't see is Chris and Brian and Jason and Graham and Alan and George and Heather, all the people behind the scenes, and Scott, where I'm calling them up on the phone, looking over the edge of my balcony, right? More than my waist over the edge of it, going like, hey, what's the best way out of this? Everyone rewrites a story like, oh, you knew it was going to work and you had courage. And you're like, fuck no, man. I was on the couch, depressed. Like those, you have people that you work with that go, hey man, I know you can do this. I believe in you. And it sounds stupid, right? Because these are people that work for you or work with you. But they're like, hey man, whatever you say, we're going to run down that direction. And you're like, all right, fuck it. I mean, if you guys are willing to take the risk, then I'm not going to be the one that's going to give up. But when you literally watch everything go to zero, and I'm like, not slowly.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
like, it was like a roller coaster. It's like one of those, like Six Flags, like that. You know those roller coasters where like they go straight up and then they like drop you off a little bit and it levels out and then they drop you down the 50 stories. Yeah. That's what it was like. I mean, it's like, well, oh, hey, people return our cargo. Oh, no, they're not. No, it's over. I mean, and you go from in 12 minutes, you can get someone to say yes 80% of the time, right? To now I'm spending an hour and a half and can't, nothing. I'm having staff listen to my phone calls. And like, if you can find anything I'm doing that you think is like, because they're all pilots, so they think like, I'm like, so they think like pilots. If you can see anything where you think I'm doing it wrong or I'm not making sense or and the staff is like, no, I mean, just is what it is.
Said yes.
No, not even no. You know what's worse? They said I would have said no too. I mean, I wish they would have lied to me and said they would have said yes. But they said what they were doing is going, no. I would say no too because I'm worried about X. And then I would go, okay, cool. So you're worried about X, right? You're worried you're going to lose your house, or you don't believe that there's an opportunity out there, or you think that you don't know anybody. Josh can attest to this, right? You have civilian pilots that tell themselves, well, all those military pilots, they all know each other. There's no way I can break that, right? 10 minutes later, so I'd be on a call with a civilian pilot, right? Who would be telling me there's no chance they can get a job because all these friggin' military pilots are out there stealing their jobs. 10 minutes later, I'm on the phone with the military pilot. I can't get a job. All these friggin' civilian guys know each other. Who wants military? And you're like, I will put both of you on the phone. Fight to the death. One of you choose. Yeah. Like, that's what it was like. You literally, because when stuff goes wrong, everybody's trying to find, why is this not working, right? The clients are trying to find out, why can't I find a job? And they make answers up.
Right.
We can see the trend because we're talking to the recruiters, we're talking to the guys that own the aviation companies, we're talking to the military pilots and civilian pilots. So we have this whole 360-degree view. So we know what they're saying isn't accurate, but it doesn't matter what I know. Sales is about what the other person knows. Mm-hmm. What do they believe? Right? It doesn't matter what I know. Nobody cares 6 months later if you go back and go, hey, by the way, remember when we had that initial intro call? I was right. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cared, right? I mean, I've had people go like, all that stuff you said earlier in the year, that was right. You should go back and tell people that. Turns out that, like, I mean, not that we ever tried that, like, because I know not to do that, but you're like, nobody cares. Nobody cares you were right. What they care about is, here's where I'm at now. What do I do about it?
Yeah.
And so, you'd have guys on the staff who go, yeah, I wouldn't do it either because of this. Well, how do I get you over that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So now I'm like forcing my staff to like see if I can sell our products to the staff. Just to like, if I can get one of them to say, they're the ones delivering it and they won't give me a yes. Like if I can't get them to say yes, what am I going to do to? This is the stuff nobody sees on the front end. They think we all have like great, like there's a book that we open up and we're like, oh, that's the idea. Like no, it's a bunch of testing.
The entrepreneur's idea
was, they just knew from the start what to do. You're like, this is roulette.
So James, real quick, let's kind of rewind back and go like, so how did you get interested in aviation? Let's kind of, let's go back to like 8-year-old James, or were you come from a family of pilots, or how did you get interested in aviation?
No, so I tell everyone that I am the biggest failure in my family. I became a pilot.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I am 6'5". I mean,
Yeah. So I am Irish Catholic from the Northeast. My dad's a cop. My uncle's a firefighter. My grandfather's a firefighter. My brother's a cop. My other brother's a nurse. My mother's a nurse. All my aunts are nurses. Right? I mean, I'm Irish Catholic from the Northeast. You go into civil service. That's what you do. Right?
Yes.
You can have a gun, a fire hose, or a syringe. One of the three. Nothing else.
You're like, it's on the family crest.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, my uncle was a chief of the fire department and my father was a lieutenant in the police department in the same city. It's like the second largest city in Jersey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's that to give you an idea. My brother's NYPD counterterrorism. My other brother's high up in management and nursing at God only knows what hospital in New York City, getting his PhD. So I'm a pilot, right, with a bachelor's degree that I barely made it through. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I never was really interested in aviation. When I got to high school, the way I was raised, college wasn't an option. You were going. So my parents said, hey, look, you got to find something you want to do. And so I narrowed it down to two things. I was going to, and this is not a joke, I was going to get a criminal justice degree, or I was going to go be a pilot. It was going to be one of the two. There was one I was really more attracted to being a pilot, but there was one minor problem. I was terrified of flying airplanes. So I took a trip down to Florida. Most of my dad's family lives down there. I toured 2 universities, Florida Institute of Technology and Embry-Riddle, and they did a good sales job. So I went, I want to be a pilot. So I came home, said to my dad, hey, I think I want to be a pilot. My dad said, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to sign you up for some flying lessons. Don't tell your mother. We'll do this for a couple weeks. We'll see if you like it, and then I'll tell her. So my dad was not only a cop, but he owned his own business. He owned a bookstore. And he also taught at a university, John Jay College of Criminal Justice.
Okay.
So I'm from Northern Jersey. I'm actually directly across from Manhattan. So that's kind of a congested area. So my dad said, why don't we go to South Jersey, where we can find a flight school that's going to have less busy airspace, whatever. So it's about an hour away. So Saturday mornings, we'd get up at 6 a.m. My dad would drive me down to Belmar, New Jersey. I would fly, and he would grade papers while I was flying. And then for the first about 15 hours, and Mark, you ever been in a small airplane?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a smell to a small airplane. It's a combination of dust and bad polyester and grease and oil.
So to let you know what kind of a small airplane, it was my dad's employee when my dad owned a concrete pumping company.
Yeah,
so it was a bachelor concrete pumpers airplane.
Yeah,
just to add to the aroma.
Another way, it's a heavy kite. So you get into a small airplane, and there's this smell that you're getting into a small airplane. I would sit in the airplane. I would smell the smell. I'd tell my flight instructor, hold on a second. I would get out of the airplane. I would vomit. I would get back in the airplane. Then we'd go flying. And that was the first 20 hours. But I knew, I was like, if I can get over this, I could actually be good at this. So I did it. And I got my my private pilot certificate, which is the first rating you can get, while I was a senior in high school. And then I went down I started college 3 months before September 11th. So I went to
another great time to be a pilot. That was just,
Well, and the interesting thing is I have, well, I don't, but my parents have Polaroids in their house of the buildings coming down because my dad was on duty that day.
Yeah.
And my uncle, who is managed a major bank for the Bank of Germany, was in New York City, a couple blocks away at the time. So it was a little bit of a weird connection. I had about 3 months before September 11th, I took right after I got my private, I went out, rented an airplane, took my dad flying, and we actually flew up the Hudson River. There's a tour you could do, and you would actually be about 300 feet below the top of the Trade Center. And my dad waved to the people on top of the Trade Center because you're that close to them. Right. And then 3 months later, you're watching, for me, watching on TV, in my dad's case, actually there at the waterfront.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of my aviation career. And then I sped up going to college. I graduated in a very unique window when there was actually hiring, when the housing boom was picking back up. And I very quickly in succession went from a company called Colgan Air, which that's a whole another 5 episodes. I got plenty of stories. To a company called Republic, flying some jet. I went from flying propellers to jets. And then I got hired by NetJets in about a 1.5 year span, which is unheard of. I got the job at NetJets because I went to a house party and beat the snot out of an assistant chief pilot at beer pong. Now what he doesn't know is I don't drink, which is why I beat him. But so I had glasses of water, he had glasses of liquor, so it was definitely stacked. But I built, it was actually one of the other people that my wife worked with who ordered crew food, did a party for Christmas and had a whole bunch of managers and stuff there. And I got hired at NetJets with the exact minimums that they needed, but it was because I met someone at a party 3 months before I hit those minimums. And so I've had a very fortunate career, but then I had the benefit of not only being the youngest pilot ever hired by NetJets, but the youngest one ever furloughed by them in the middle of an economic crisis. And then that kind of started, I kind of, the business went from being a hobby to an actual business. I don't know how many folks that listen. A lot of people think when you start a business, you got to go all in and dig yourself into debt. And I didn't do that. I got a Gmail.
We don't believe in that either.
I was going to say that. Yeah, we'll dive more into that here. Finish up what you were going to say. I want to hear more about that.
I mean, the secret that nobody knows is I started this business on an $8 How to Write Resumes book from Barnes and Noble, and that's not a joke. I went to Barnes and Noble and bought a book on how to write resumes and charged people an obscenely low amount of money to write their resumes, and took the feedback, and they kept telling me on how to make it better and better and better and better and better. And it got better and better and better and better and better until finally I had a client call me up one day and goes, "Dude, we've got a problem." And I was like, "Oh shit, what?" And he's like, "I feel like I took advantage of you." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "The quality of what you delivered me far outweighs what you charged me. You've got to raise your prices." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Dude, you could charge triple what you're charging right now." And I'm like, "You're kidding me, right?" He goes, "I'm going to send you 5 buddies and you need to tell them you're going to charge them this." And then, the prices are going up and I'm getting more clients. But I made my first $100,000. I didn't have a website. I didn't have a phone number. There were no pictures of me on the internet. It was all through referrals.
Well, at least from the head up, they're all anyways.
Yeah.
If you go to Victoria's Secret, cover all, page 137.
Sorry, James, that was too easy. That was an easy one.
No, go for it. But I mean, it was all just based on referrals. It was friends telling friends telling friends telling friends, and then it kind of grew out of control, and I got staff.
So let's dive into that, because that is something that we've had other entrepreneurs bring up in the past. There's one guy who said, like, "Hey, I didn't quit my day job until my side hustle was making 3 times what my day job was making." Right. And he's like, and some people were like, "Oh, you should have quit it a long time ago." He's like, no. Like, you really want to string that out as long as you can. So how did you go about balancing that and spending time, like, actually working, right, at your job that someone's paying you to do, but then also building something else on the side? And I feel like there's probably a little bit of a time crunch doing both.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a lot of therapy. But other than that, look, there's a couple different things. So the biggest thing that made a difference for me is clarity. So I am very clear as to why I walk into work every day.
Yeah.
So I get asked all the time. In fact, I just got asked by it was actually a Marine the other day. I was doing a sales pitch with him, and he wanted to go to FedEx. So we get through, and I explain how we can help him, why he's running into the problems he's running into. I get those. We're problems based. So when I get on the phone, I'm not trying to sell you a product. I'm trying to figure out if you have a problem we can solve. If you don't have a problem we can solve, then I'm trying to get you off the phone as quickly as I can, because I'm just wasting your time. If you do have a problem we can solve, I'll talk to you until I'm blue in the face about it, but you'll sell yourself. I don't have to worry about selling you at that point. You'll take care of that for me. So at the end, he decides, hey, he's 95% he wants to work with us. Okay, cool. He goes, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" "Yeah." "Why are you flying King Airs?" So I have like a very non-respected job in the industry. And if you think about it, right, I own a company. Any all these folks that are getting hired by United, by Delta, by American that are flying 777s and 74s, right? They're coming through our company. If you go into the corporate side of the business, right? I can't tell you how many directors of aviation, how many chief pilots, right? How many pilots that are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. I did their salary negotiation with them. Now, when I talk about salary negotiation, I'm helping them negotiate against CEOs that you see on TV.
Right.
Right. Like you turn on Squawk Box, right? There's a lot of those guys I've negotiated against that don't know that I was negotiating against them.
Right.
So it's natural for someone to go, well, wait a second. If you're the guy helping them do this, then why aren't you doing that? Why are you not flying a Gulfstream? Why are you not flying at United? And the reason is because I have a job that has a very stable schedule. So while I fly airplanes, right, I'm done at 5 p.m. every day. That means between 5 p.m. and midnight, I can do sales calls. I can do team meetings. I can deliver services, right? Okay. I have every weekend and holiday off. Now, I make 25% of what our clients do flying airplanes.
Yeah.
But that's not my main gig. That's just something I do because if I can live far below my means, right? 2,000 square foot house to 800 square foot property, right? I have the worst car of anybody on my staff. I have the least amount of property. I have the worst car. I have the least amount of things of anybody on my staff, but I don't need to make as much money.
Yeah.
Now, I can then trade the money off for my time because that's actually what's valuable to me. And I know people say all the time, time is really, really valuable. Not necessarily true. It depends on what you can charge for your time. 10 years ago, an hour of me doing this business was not nearly as valuable as an hour of me flying an airplane.
Yep.
Right? I could make $20, $30, $50 an hour running the business. I can make $50, $75, $100 an hour flying an airplane, right? So there's this risk that you have to take where you go, I'm going to take less money for my time now because I think later I'll be able to charge more for it. But there is that clarity of that stability of, okay, I'm going to take this job because I actually really do like flying airplanes. It's very a lot of fun. I'm not going to buy a King Air. So I'd rather fly somebody else's other than my own. It's a lot cheaper that way.
Yeah, paying for jet fuel and repairs is terrible.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get into a Bonanza at this point. I don't even want to own it. I just want to rent it. Yeah. But that idea of being clear with myself on why am I going to work? I'm going into work because I need a baseline level of income and security so that I can take stupid risks over here, right? Part of the reason on why this year...
James, you just blown everybody of our listeners. You just blew their mind. Yeah. What?
Oh, really?
Crazy concept.
Oh,
yeah. People don't look at it that way. No, you're spot on. Keep going.
We break that concept down to people sometimes. Just like, hey, the whole reason why you're doing this is so that you can do that stupid thing. Because a lot of times people just want to jump to the stupid, right? The stupid is more exciting. They're like, are you kidding? No. Like, no, that's stupid all the way, But their caveat is always like, but I'm super smart, so I'm going to turn to stupid.
Yeah. And if you think you're super smart, just put your stuff out to the market. They'll let you know how smart you are. Trust me. I've learned that lesson. Yeah. Yep. I've got a business mentor that reminded me the other day, you're never smarter than the market. And then the market reminded me of that about 10 minutes after. So look, every 100% of the ideas that I come up with are the greatest ideas that any human on the face of the earth throughout history has ever come up with. Except for the 99% that are not. Yeah. And the problem is I can't distinguish between the two, so I fight for all 100% equally. And I learned by taking a baseball bat to the face. It's just how I learn. And that stubbornness can be good, right? Because it helps you get through failure, but it also keeps you in failure longer because you just keep trying. Mm-hmm. That clarity allowed me to strip away my ego. So, I mean, like when that guy asked, like, why do you fly a King Air? That did not hurt. I was like, that's a good question Because if I were in your shoes and I was about to fork over cash to a dude, I'd want to know why he made a stupid decision too.
Right.
But but because I was clear with myself, I was able to say to him, I go, hey, dude, I get this, and this benefit, and I couldn't talk to you if I didn't do it. And he went, oh, yeah, of course you would do that. That wouldn't make any, right? That clarity with self. There's a whole bunch of other people that will tell you what you're doing is wrong.
Yep.
Because I drive a Corolla. I do. It's a beautiful white Corolla. But I don't care, right? Everyone on staff makes fun of me because I wear Under Armour, right? I don't have fancy clothing. It's not because I'm broke. It's just
I want to talk to your staff. Under Armour is good stuff.
It is. Like,
I like Under Armour.
I won't drop the money on Under Armour.
Well, they make the joke because first of all, it's all 10 years old. And second of all, I have for meetings, I have my morning pajamas and my afternoon pajamas. So I dressed up for this with a collared shirt. This is not what you normally get.
I could not wear Under Armour from 10 years ago. I do not look the same.
Oh yeah. No. So me having that flying job when everything cratered in the beginning of the year, I had the ability to say, I will not take one dime out of this business. I have not paid myself $1 for the entire year of 2020, but I didn't lay any staff off.
Yeah.
I was able to pay to retrain them.
Yeah.
I was able to get more technology that we needed so that we could redo our marketing. I could pay a marketing guy to bounce ideas off of, right? I didn't have to go, hey, Dale, or hey, Chris, sorry, man, I know your family's going through rough times right now, but hey, dude, sink or swim, have a good day, right?
I know how to write good resumes if you need some help.
I actually raised pay in 2020. I didn't cut it.
Yeah.
But I could only do that because I didn't have to pull any money out of the business.
Right. So there's something else that I want to dive down a little bit into because I think there's a lot in here that kind of transcends but beyond pilots and consulting and all that. I mean, first of all, living within your means and all that stuff, right? But
I've got a wife / analyst for that. Every day I go, are we broke? And she goes, no. Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, good. Putting on my 10-year-old Under Armour shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoot! I just lost it. I was super excited because there was something that popped into my head, and
you're doing a joke, Mark, because you're making a joke. You lost a good thought for the joke.
I was talking about. I didn't have to cut anybody's pay. I was able to raise pay.
I know what it is because you were talking about hey, every idea I have is super awesome except for the 99 that aren't, and I'm just going to advocate for all of them. So. How do you eventually decide when something's not worth, chasing down, right? When you have an idea that's eventually, okay, I've really waited, I've tried, and now it's time to fold.
Sure. So there's a couple of things. The first is you've got to surround yourself with people that will tell you you're an idiot. And that, I know that sounds really romantic until you're sitting in a meeting and three of them stand up and go, you're a fucking idiot. And you go, shit, you're ganging up on me.
It is romantic. You're describing my marriage.
Yeah. So I'll give you a really good example. So I do all of our marketing. But because my wife is good on analytics, she actually administers the marketing. She's the one that loads up all the emails. She creates all the websites. She does all the programming. She sends it out. She watches the analytics. So in the depth of the coronavirus, because I've been to this rodeo before, right? Mm-hmm. This stuff just keeps repeating itself. And so I said, hey, look, we're going to get into class warfare. When the layoffs start, you're going to have really junior people are going to say to the senior people, you should be taking a pay cut so I can save my job. And the senior people are going to go, hey, tough shit. Right. I lost my job before. I'm still trying to recover.
Right.
So I had this marketing piece, and I am naturally aggressive. If you ever sit on a sales call with me, I am not that like pushy salesman. I am, if you want to do it, let me know and I'll talk to you about it. If not, let's stop wasting each other's time. So when I say aggressive, I don't mean pushy. I just mean I know what we're doing. I know what we're good at. I know what we're not good at. I know the people that we are good to work with and the ones we're not good to work with. And I have no shame in being upfront about that because I don't want to waste anybody's time. And to be honest, if you start working with if you get this mentality of I'll work with anybody that has money, you're going to start getting really bad reviews. The client's going to be really pissed. You're going to start losing staff because they hate working with them. It gets to be a mess. Okay. So I wrote this marketing piece and I put in this, like, I'm sarcastic because I'm from Jersey. It's just sarcastic, like 2 sentences about how, like, yeah, you know, you're going to be pissed because your captain's complaining about a boat, but what you don't understand is boats are expensive. And so, you know, like, to a guy who's losing his house, right? But the idea was you're trying to piss them off. You're trying to get their attention. You're trying to get them to it wasn't just to make fun of it. It was to redirect. So my wife reads it and calls me up and goes, you got to pull that. And I'm like, no. And she's like, you got to pull it. And I'm like, you're not a pilot. You don't know what you're talking about. That didn't go well, by the way, in case anybody's ever wondering. So I said, fine, let's do a tiebreaker. Let's get Jason on. So Jason DeVerney, he's our podcast host for the Raven Careers Aviation podcast. So okay, let's get Jason on the phone. So we get Jason on the phone and he reads it and he goes, yeah, you got to pull it. And I'm like, no, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, what you guys are not understanding is this is gold. So Eileen goes to kind of, you know, hey, you need to pull it. And I kind of like jumped down her throat. I'm like, no, you're not a pilot. You don't get it. And Jason goes into defend her and I go, dude, she's a big girl. Let it go. So, like, you know, because I'm fighting for my idea. So it finally got to a point where I said, fine, screw it. We have an internal, like a Slack group, like a team chat group. And I said, put it out to the group, put it out to everybody on staff. And you tell them that I wrote it and I want to know what they think. Everybody on staff went, do not do that. Delete it. So it took about an hour and I wrote back, every single one of you is wrong, but I'm not going to go against all of you. So we're going to pull it. So we pulled it. And about 2 weeks later, I went in and wrote another message and I went, had I left that in there, that would have been the biggest mistake ever. Thank you. Right? So I am a formidable personality. Right? Now, in the organization, we've all got to be allowed to have our individual personalities. Some folks on staff have a personality like mine, some don't, but nobody's ever afraid of getting fired for sharing your opinion. And so there has to be a power structure in place where and I'm not trying to get into like cheesy, like safe spaces, but they've got to know that they can call you out on your bullshit and they're not going to get fired for it.
Yeah.
They've also got to know that they can call you out on your bullshit and be wrong and still be celebrated for, I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Now, am I handing out trophies? No. What they get is a message that says, by the way, to all of you who said I was wrong, you were right. Right? That's trope, right? Like, you call it out. Yeah. You don't, when I'm wrong, I don't go like, let's just pretend like that didn't happen. Like, you call it out. You go, hey, look, guys, this was a great idea. It still is a great idea. None of you know what you're talking about, but, you know, just saying, you know, obviously like being funny about it, but no, you tell people, you go, look, I was wrong. And I call people up frequently and go, look, I really appreciate you not backing down.
Yeah. If you ever read Patrick Lencioni's the 5 Habits of a Highly Effective Team, that one of his major tenets is there has to be conflict within the team.
Did you talk to my mentor before you got on? Because that's the number one book he recommended. He's a big Lencioni fan.
We have a hilarious story about that book, but I don't know if we want to record it.
Yeah. No, Lencioni's big around.
No, and because people so many times don't want to have conflict because conflict has this weird stigma around it, like conflict's bad. And he, you know, kind of breaks it down like conflict is just, you know, people having a good disagreement, putting their opinion out there and just not getting squashed for it, right? You can fight for your position and at least get your, you know, get it off your chest and be like, hey, this is what I think. And if it doesn't work, you're like, okay, well, it's fine. Let's just move forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple things with that, and that kind of goes into that power structure. So the first is healthy conflict is about ideas, not people.
Yeah.
Right.
Take notes, people. That was a good one.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It is. Healthy conflict is it's about ideas. It's not about people. Okay. There is a difference between your idea being wrong and you being wrong. So if you notice in anything, when I talk to my team, it's not like, hey man, you were wrong. It was, hey, that didn't work out, or hey, that wasn't right, or whatever. Same thing when it comes back to me, right? Now, granted, and I'm not a yeller, I'm not a screamer. I'm an introvert, which you may or may not realize. So I have really close relationships with the folks on the team, right? Everybody's got my phone number. We all talk. We have internal private chat groups, so there's a level of trust and rapport there. But if I, if I push too hard for something, I'll call them up and go, hey man, I was wrong. Right now, it doesn't mean I'm like wrong as a human. It just means, hey, look, man, I pushed harder than I should have there. I got tunnel vision, thought it was a good idea, and it wasn't. And I just want to call and let you know, I know it was hard for you to stand up, and I appreciate it, because if you didn't, I would have made not only myself look like an idiot, but you too. Like,
right.
That's the cool thing about the power at the top, is you get to make everybody look like a moron. So there is this. There's this ethos within the company that everyone's aware of, because when we talk about hiring, it's one of the things that pops up where we go, okay, how do you score that in someone?
Yeah.
I had one of the guys internally made a recommendation for somebody. He goes, hey, look, this guy's interested in working with us. Can you have a conversation with him? And when I got off the phone with the guy, I called him back and I went, it's not going to work. And he goes, what happened? I said, about every 3 minutes, he was giving me a compliment. And I'm not comfortable with that. And he goes, yeah, that's not going to work. I go, yeah, what's he going to do when I come up with a dumb idea? And he's telling me that, it's the greatest thing ever, because he thinks that I want to hear good things about myself. Like, don't get me wrong. If you had something good, I'll take it. But I'm not paying you to tell me my dumb ideas are good ones. I'm paying you to tell me you should not be the smartest person in the room. You just shouldn't.
Yeah. So, Mark, you do the first one. I'll do the second one. So speed round. Here we go.
If you were to go back 10 years or maybe even further, we'll go to, we'll just go back 10 years. Go back 10 years. You're doing this all over again. What's probably the one piece of advice you would give yourself if you were to start all over?
Perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yes. Love it.
I had such low self-esteem when I started the business, because everybody that I grew up with was a civil servant, right? They got a pension, they got healthcare, right? There's just like this idea of what stability is. There aren't really any entrepreneurs in my family. In fact, one of my family members told me, don't ever grow the business past X, right? Because you don't want to increase your tax bracket. Okay? Just to give you an idea.
Good advice.
Just to give you an idea in terms of how like rigid my mindset on what is I have a mentor that says there's more than one way to live a life, right? But I had only this one way. And so what that led to is this idea that what is an expert?
Mm-hmm.
Well, an expert's just somebody that ran into the wall more times than you did.
Yeah.
So I had this idea of like, I've got to be perfect. I've got to know everything. It's got to be pretty, which is hilarious because it doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be one page ahead of them in the book. And you know what? Nobody cares what your experience is. Nobody cares what you've done in the past. What they care about is what are the results you're going to deliver them.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, what I did, which was smart, which I would recommend everybody, is commit to the result. So if I say to you, I'm going to charge you X, I'm going to charge you $100, right? But I'm going to make damn sure you achieve the result. I may lose money on it, but I don't care because I'm learning how to get better, faster, stronger at delivering that result. And guess what? That person that got the result delivered, they're going to tell 20 of their buddies.
Yeah.
And your sales pitch is going to be a 3-minute sales pitch because it's going to go, my buddy called me up and said that you did this. Where do I send the check? That was, it took me 5 years to figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely really good advice. That definitely transcends beyond just your field.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm even going to use that excuse when my wife comments on how I fold laundry. Like, hey,
100%.
This is the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
So you either have to get higher self-esteem or lower self-awareness. One of the two.
That's also quotes.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Higher self-esteem or lower self-awareness. Either one of those will lead to success.
Okay, so one sentence answer. Does the 737 MAX, does it really suck as an airplane?
Oh yeah. So you know what the difference between the 737 MAX and the coronavirus is?
What?
The coronavirus is airborne.
Yes.
Hey, gosh.
I don't know.
The script, down in the lineup, there's best pilot jokes. So
there you go.
So let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 folks on staff that fly the MAX. They're all like, what are we waiting for? Let's just get us back to flying. So I don't know. I guess it's fine. I'll get on one. I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so I'm actually going to skip to the food one because in case I ever find myself in Columbus, Ohio, this one's non-business related.
Oh, nice.
Are there any hidden gems food-wise?
Yes, there are.
Like only locals.
Tensuki Market. What people don't know about Columbus, Ohio is there is a Honda plant here. So we get a boatload of people that come in from Tokyo weekly for business. We have the largest Japanese supermarket in the Midwest in Columbus, Ohio. It's called Tensuki Market. They have a bakery, they have a ramen shop, and they have a sushi shop that is the exact quality of what we got when we were in Tokyo.
Wow.
There we go.
That goes against my food rule of don't get sushi where you're not close to an ocean.
Well, it's flown in daily.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Say that one more time.
Tensuki, Tensuke.
Tensuki Market.
Yeah, don't go on a Saturday night. I want to get my table.
Oh, it's awesome. See? Yeah. You pick up Columbus, Ohio. Who'd have known? Best sushi
in the like I said, don't move here. It sucks. Nobody likes it. Leave.
It's great.
My hidden agenda of this podcast is really just to collect places to go eat.
You know what the other interesting thing is that I didn't know? The first ever Ted's Montana Grill opened in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Ted's Montana Grill, bison burgers, man.
Nothing.
All right. Yeah.
In and out? Yes.
We're in California, so we're like, does it have avocado on it?
Yeah.
Are these almonds free range?
Yeah. No, so Tensuki Market's good stuff, man. I like it.
There you go. Awesome. All right. I guess we can end it there. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
Episode 1 complete in the book. So real quick, James, how can people get a hold of you? Sorry, Raven Careers. How can they find out about Raven Careers and get a hold of you?
So info at Raven Careers, RavenCareers.com, or you can go to www.ravencareers.com, and a link to my calendar is right on there. You can just book a time to speak with me directly.
There you go.
And you're going to know that he's either in his morning time pajamas or his nighttime pajamas.
Oh, I'm 100% pajamas when you talk to me.
I'm all pajamas all day, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I use a professional voice, so you think I'm dressed up, but I'm in Under Armour.
I mean, they're Victoria's Secret pajamas, and they're pretty tight and skimpy, but they're pajamas.
Other than that, it's good. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, super awesome. Hearing about your story. Hearing, I feel like I practically know your wife.
She's a great person. You should have her on.
Yeah, she's smarter than her husband, obviously.
Yeah.
We're excited to have James back for next episode. We're going to really dive into Raven Careers and everything you do on that side too. Real quick, nothing we say here can be used or should be used as tax, legal, or financial advice. So if there was anything on this podcast that sparks your interest, please go contact a professional before doing anything. Thanks so much, and we cannot wait for next episode.
Thanks, everybody.